What's up, everyone? It's Matt Mrozek, and this will be the next work in progress on Thor. So yesterday we got not a whole lot done. It doesn't seem like a whole lot done, but it was just a lot of... I'm going to try this new top-down thing with my phone. We'll see if this works, because I noticed yesterday in my video after I looked at it, you see the back of my head a lot when I'm spraying paint. So, you know, it's all that trying to get the camera in the right spot. So we're going to do some masking today. I sent a picture to my client. He loves it. This blue undertone to the black looks really, really good. I'm not even sure you can see it in camera. You probably can't. It's very subtle. You can kind of see it there, but it looks great in person. What it does is it just kind of tricks the eye so it doesn't look solid black, because that's boring, like I said. So it's a lot of work to do that, but I think the end results are worth it, because, again, it doesn't, as you turn this in the light, you kind of see those little highlights kind of poking in and out a little bit. So today, the first thing we got to do is we got to do masking. So I got to mask off the black so I can spray the yellow for the bands and the belt. And so I won't bore you with a whole ton of this on camera, because it's not the most exciting thing to do. I actually love masking. There's a few things in modeling that I love to do that other people hate. Masking, I don't mind it. I think it's kind of relaxing. And decals, I love to do decals. So looking at the references, what goes yellow, and I was looking at this earlier, basically from this strap down is yellow, and then all the straps are obviously yellow. And I was like wondering if this was supposed to be black because of the texture. It's the same texture as the rest of the boot, but nope. This goes yellow, and then all the wrappings go yellow. So we got some a little bit of masking to do. I thought about doing silly putty, but the problem with that is that I can't get a real tight edge like I can do with masking tape, and to touch up yellow paint on top of black is like, it would take 5-6 coats of paint to do that, because yellow does not hide very well. So we're going to mask it. So it's going to take a little while to do this, but it's no big deal. So I've shown masking before. So the first thing I do before I commit to anything, I take a brand new piece of tape and I do a tape test. I just kind of put some on there, rub it down real hard, and I rip it off. And if my paint doesn't come up, then I'm good to go. So I just kind of take a couple areas and do that. So now this doesn't mean I'm not going to get lifting. It's very rare, knock on wood, that I get lifting. I do every once in a while, and it's usually because there's a contamination on the surface that I missed. I have had kits in the past where it'll pull right down to the resin, even from a factory, which means that when they apply primer to the piece, there's a contamination on the resin, or the resin is leaking. It's leaching, meaning that it's not fully cured, so it could leach and it's uncured. That's always fun to deal with, because it's really hard to mess with. So this is what I do. I get myself some tape, like the Tamiya tape, and a toothpick. Do I have any toothpicks over here? I don't think so. I'll just use, I got one of these. I get a toothpick and I just kind of bite the tip of it off, so it's a blunted tip. And I'm going to show you just kind of loosely here. So the smaller, the thinner the tape, the easier it is to wrap around curves and stuff. And since these boots have a texture to them, maybe a little tougher to kind of get a good seal. So I kind of let the tape do its own thing. I don't really force it. And I come in here with the Q-tip and I push it down, make sure I seal that edge. Now, 90% of the time, my masking is really good and I don't have any screw-ups. Every once in a while, I'll pull the tape off, like, oh shit, I missed a spot. Or, I'll have missed a spot where I didn't mask off all the way, so I got to touch that up. What's really hard is when the paint color matches the tape color pretty close. So like right here, I've got this compound curve. I'm not going to force the tape down. I'm just going to leave it loose and take my toothpick and just lightly push. I'm not pushing real hard yet. And I'm just going to let the tape kind of do its own thing. Let it kind of conform to that shape. And then as I go, I'll go back behind and seal it. But you need the tape to be able to kind of twist and fold and wrinkle on its own. So as to try to push this down right now, just tear the tape. Just letting it conform to that shape. And as I go along, as the tape kind of takes that shape, then I can start pushing down on it a little bit more to seal it. Just like this. And I can kind of come back with my fingernail and push it down my finger. So a lot of guys I know use silly putty here, but again, I'm painting yellow. I am going to put a coat of gray primer on top of this before I spray any yellow, because the black will just muddy up the yellow. Again, it's just it's kind of like red. It does not cover very well. So you can't try to just hose on the paint to cover black. Unless you're going for a certain effect, you'll just use up a lot of paint and you won't get a really nice yellow. So I'm kind of contemplating what I want to do here for the yellow. What I'll probably do is put down a darker color, maybe a brown, and I'll dry brush yellow on. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because it's got a lot of great texture in here. Now I'm just going to come here with my blade and I'm just going to follow this edge. It's a relatively new blade. You usually want to start with a brand new blade when you do this, because you don't want to tear the tape, you want to cut it, and you don't want to put any force down. So I'm barely pushing down on the tape and let the blade do the work. I feel like my videos are the same thing over and over again, because they basically are. It's the same process, it's just different subject matters. Like that. And then I usually get I've got like 5 pairs of tweezers, but I've got one that's my favorite, and it's this one right here. And the reason I know, so it's got red paint on it, but it's got a really good like grip to it. Just come here and pull that off, just like that. And then I go through and just kind of re-hit that edge again with the Q-tip. And if there's any little bleed through from the yellow onto the black, that's an easy touch up with the black paint, because it'll cover right up. Right here, the tape got pulled a little too much. I pulled away from that edge. So I'm going to go back in there and just kind of spot tape it. And then come in here and cut this little excess off. Like that. So I've got a couple hours of masking to do before I get to any painting. So today's goal is to get the yellow down, which will get the yellow down and the gold down on his belt for the emblem, and that'll wrap up his outfit. And then we'll see what time of day it is, and then we might start working on skin tones, because that's going to take a while. So I'm going to continue to mask off camera, and we'll come back when we're ready for some painting. Okay, so I was just kind of looking back at what I did and realized kind of out of frame quite a bit for that. So I'm going to do it again, and hopefully I'll be in frame this time. So yeah, I need a different camera setup. I've been saying that for years. Again, so I'm just going to take tape. I'm going to leave the last clip on there because why not? I just take some tape. I did a tape test at the very beginning, which you saw. And I'm just going to kind of lay this tape in here loosely. Just give it a little tap down. Take my toothpick and just kind of let the tape do its own thing. Don't want to force it. You start to pull on the tape and force it, that's when you start to get lift. The tape will not stick. It'll lift up, and then you'll go to do your painting. You come back, it's like, oh crap, my tape moved or pulled up, because it's got too much tension on it. Just do this. And come back behind. Push it down. Like that. And I could come with here with a thinner tape, and it would conform a little bit easier. And in this case, I can kind of pull on it just a little bit, not too much. And kind of follow that edge. Now see right here, this wants to come down, so I'm not going to force it. I'm going to just tear that off. And come in and bring in a new piece of tape at a different angle. And they'll conform much better than trying to force that tape around that corner or that edge. Just like that. So I'm going to move a little faster on this one, since I kind of showed in the first clip that you really can't see. Again, same thing. Just going to kind of put this on here loose. Yeah, I can get it off my finger. There we go. And just kind of let it do its thing around all the curves and everything. This piece may be a little too big. I'm going to tear that off because it's not wanting to to do what I want to do. So don't force it. Just tear it off. And oh, I know, because I got a big piece of tape. It's too thick. Should I use this thickness? Same thing. Just come in here. Gonna butter up right against that and wrap it around. Like that. Come back in with your new blade. Again, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on. I'm letting the blade do the work. Start pushing down the blade, it's going to slip, and you're going to screw up your paint or cut yourself. You get blood everywhere, which I have done. It's not fun. And you got to try to get the blood off your paint job. That's the worst part. And then we're just going to pull this up. Like that. And then I'm constantly going back and just making sure that edge is sealed well. And that's it. So hopefully you see that better than the last clip. So I'm going to go mask off all these areas in between the boots and on the belt and the body, and then we'll come back. Okay, so it took about 2 hours, which I figured it would, but I got everything masked off and a coat of primer. So for the base color of this yellow, I'm going to use a custom mix here. This kind of yellowish, orangish color, and that's a custom mix of, don't ask me ratios. People always ask me ratios. I don't know. The Mecha Color Yellow, Mecha Color Sand Primer, and Mecha Color Orange on top of this gray. So I'm going to spray this on, and we're kind of, again, work dark to light. I'm going to put this on and do a little shading, a little washing, this may take the whole day just to do his yellow, between the masking and all the steps I need to do. So we'll see. And spray this on pretty light. Just working it up. Hope I have enough mixed up. I'm just going to put on light first. I'm going to try to cover this all. That way we can stay consistent with the colors. So I thin this with Mission Models acrylic thinner. You can thin these with Mr. Color Thinner. I tried that, but it wasn't working out so well. But I have done it with Mr. Color Thinner too. All right, so I'm going to do that on that boot. And being acrylic, you can't put it on heavy. One thing I like about lacquers is I can just really put it on really nice and wet and get a really nice smooth paint finish. I don't know, I really like the lacquers, but they are more toxic and stuff. Actually kind of like what that boot looks right now. You can kind of see the primer through it a little bit. So that's a good first cut on that boot. I think, let's see. Make sure I get from the bottom up too, to get all around the edges. I want to do, make sure I do consistent coats on everything. And then the belt. And the little Thor logo, I'll hand paint that gold. That'll be the last thing. So I'm going to continue to build this up, and then I'll come back when I'm happy with what I got, because this will just be a bunch of light layers building this color up. And I want it to be kind of a darker, I don't say grimy yellow, but it's kind of what I'm thinking. Because we're going to do some shading, dry brushing, and all that stuff. So I'll come back when I get everything coated. Okay, so we kind of got those base coated, and it's not 100% opaque, but that's okay because we're going to do some shading and stuff like that. So it's going to come in a little bit. Hopefully it'll stay frame here. And I got some clear brown in my brush. I'm just going to kind of come in here and follow the muscle lines. It's pretty light. See if it shows up. I'm going to have to change, go a little darker. I'm going to mist on some brighter yellow on top of this. Tie it together. And then I'll seal it and then do the dry brushing to bring out the wrinkles and texture in the fabric. And I should get kind of where I want, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to darken this clear brown a little bit. Well, let's just keep going because I think it's going to work. I just have it over thin too much. It's actually doing pretty good now. Just got to build it up. I just had it thinned a little too much. It's Mr. Color clear brown, so I can put on a little bit heavier. If I'm in frame. That's actually looking pretty good. And when I do the embroidery, I'm just going to very lightly mist it on just to tie it in together. I actually really like this yellow that I have going on right now. It's a little dark though. Just wiggles a little bit. So finish this leg up. When you get the idea, I'll do the other leg and the belt, and then we'll come back and Mist on a brighter yellow. I'm going to hit this sole pretty hard. I want this to be a little darker. There's actually a real nice kind of Asgardian symbol on the bottom of his sole here, which is kind of cool. I may put a little wash in that. You can see it. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. So we got some shading going on, and I'm going to continue this. I'll come back. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm misting on some Mr. Color GX Yellow, and I'm kind of getting this effect. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to mist on some Character Yellow, which is a little more orange to it. So let me show you what I'm doing here. For that. So I'm just taking this and just lightly misting it on, kind of building it up, kind of blending this all together. But I think I want to warm it up just a little bit, so I'm going to do this. Yellow's a hard color. The shading looks really good. Yeah, it's going to take, this will be all day just to get the yellow done. It's no big deal. So basically like that, just mist it on, and then I'm going to do the belt. Ah, crap. I keep knocking over this bottle of paint, and it's pissing me off. Ugh, son of a bitch. Ugh, God dang it. I'm not mad I spilt the paint, I'm mad that I'm wasting paint, because this stuff is $5 a bottle. And I don't know why I didn't have the lid on, but I didn't. And it's spilled everywhere. So now I gotta clean that up. Okay. I'm just gonna leave that alone because nothing I can do about it right now. Sorry, give me a second to clean up here a little bit because I don't want to get this everywhere. Okay. Pour some lacquer thinner on the floor and wipe it up. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Luckily, it didn't spill anything I painted. Okay, again, the belt. Seeing a lot of different yellows on Thor. I tend to like a warmer tone. Getting more thinner in this paint. So I'm gonna maybe just add a little. Okay, so that's about it for that. It's looking pretty good. So I'm going to put this back in the jar. How much do I have in here? Quite a bit, actually. I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to add a little character yellow to it, which is a little more on the orange side, to warm this up. shot right. There, fit pretty good. I'll try to shift this color a little bit. Okay, well, like an idiot, I was recording the yellow. Okay, so I was recording the process of painting the yellow yesterday, and I didn't realize that my card filled up, so you missed like 90% of what I did on the yellow. So I'm just going to describe what I did because I can't go back and show you. Let me darken this down a little bit because it looks a little bright in camera. So you can see here I went for like a more realistic kind of muted yellow, not a really bright comic yellow. I think this fits really well with this piece. So after I masked it and I did that base coat that I showed you, I went in with some Mr. Color GX Clear Brown, and I hit all the muscles and shaded everything. So you can see that here. And I made it really, really dark in the shade and the shadows because I knew I was going to bring it back up. After I did that, I mixed up some Mr. Color GX number 4 yellow, and I just kind of misted that on and kind of brightened it up, blended it together because the initial yellow I used was after the brown kind of turned it like a warm yellowish, a warm orangish yellow, and it was getting a little too orange. So I went in and just misted on some of that yellow, just kind of blending it in, bringing it all together. And then it got a little too bright, a little too yellow. So I went back in and I mixed up a little bit of GX, that GX yellow, and a little bit of orange, just to get a nice warm yellow. And then misted that on, and that kind of got me my final color. And the very last thing I did is I used a little Vallejo Mecha yellow with a little bit of white, and I dry brushed it. So that brings out all the wrinkles and stuff in the boots, and looks really, really good. So sorry I missed the recording of that. I didn't realize until after I was done. But the boots took me all day, and I kind of thought they would because the masking alone took me, 2 or 3 hours. I did the same thing on the belt. The only difference here is I didn't do the dry brushing. I started to do it, but I didn't like the way it was looking. Oops, sorry. So I didn't. I just took it off because I hit the wrinkles with the clear brown to get the shading. And when I started dry brushing, it just didn't look right on this fabric. So I just went and wiped it off and didn't use it. And I just simply hand brushed on some Vallejo liquid old gold. This is like my favorite tone of gold. It's really warm. It could almost be like it's not quite copper, but it's a really warm gold. So this is looking really sharp. Really happy with how this is looking. I actually just had them all together, but I took them apart because I'm ready to move on to the skin tones. But we back out and kind of look at this overall with that kind of warmish, with the green undertone on the base, the yellow and the blue. It's looking really sharp. So I'm going to clear off my bench and we'll get ready to do skin tones, and we'll see how far we get on those today. I'm thinking I can get the majority of the skin tones done today, and then tomorrow, hopefully I'll finish them up. We'll see. It just depends how far I get on skin tones. So we'll clean up the bench and get back to work. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do before I start on the skin tones, I'm actually going to glue the boots on because he came packed with the boots on, and there's no reason not to have them glued on. They'll just make them more stable. So the first thing I'm doing is going through, and I'm just sanding off the paint on the keys. This is some 80 grit sandpaper. Because when you use epoxy, you need resin on resin. If you do it just without taking the paint off, you'll think you'll have a really good bond, but you really need bare resin for it to do its thing. So just sanding this off carefully. Make sure you don't sand where you see the paint. So I'm going to do this on both of these keys and on the inside of the boots, and we'll come back. Okay, so I got those cleaned up. On the boots, I just used a little lacquer thinner to go in there and clean up because I can't get sandpaper in there without risk damaging the outside. So I just took some lacquer thinner and cleaned it up. So I got bare resin in there. And we got bare resin in here. So what we're using is 30-minute epoxy. I'm using 30 minutes because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this guy on the base and just set him back behind me, and he'll cure over the next 12 hours or so. Because I don't need the body anymore. So you mix this up 1-to-1 ratio, and we don't need a lot. And I'm going to try to avoid ooze out. So that's always a trick. And it's a pretty good fit in there, so I don't think I'm going to need a lot. And if I get any ooze out, I typically will just leave it. If I get just like a little bit, and then I'll just go back and I'll hit it with an airbrush and some flat spray and dull it down if I get any ooze out. But we're just going to mix up a little bit here. 30-minute epoxy gives it a little more working time. The more you mix up, the faster it'll kick off. Whether it's 5-minute or 30-minute epoxy, because it starts to generate heat, and the more volume you have, it will kick off quicker and stuff. So try to mix up just a little bit at a time if you can. Like I was to fill this cup up like halfway with the stuff, it would kick off really quick. It'd still take it 12 hours or so to cure, but all right, so mix it 1-to-1 and just mix it really good. And also, the more you mix it, the faster it's going to kick off because you're generating heat. Okay. So we're going to do, and this stuff tends to get everywhere. So you come in here, I'm just going to brush the keys and the boots first. Yeah, I'm not using a whole lot. And then what I'll do is I'll check that on the statue. So I'll put this on, and I'll take it off real quick and see if I get even coverage on the key. And I can use a little bit more, not much. I'm going to brush some on the key here a little bit, where I didn't get any epoxy. Okay, so between that and what I have in here, I should get even coverage. And the magnet's going to hold it in. So I'm going to put this to the side so I'm going to do the other same. So for this, I'll do the same thing for this boot, and then we'll put it on the base. Okay, so I have epoxy in both keys, and I'm going to put them on the base so that when he dries and cures, it's in the right position. And then now his legs are one piece. And we're looking good. So I didn't put any pins in this because two reasons. They have really nice strong magnets, and also the way this is sculpted, the way his weight is distributed on the statue, it's actually very well engineered. So there's no not all the weight's on this foot and not all the weight is on this foot. It's actually really evenly distributed. So you don't have to worry about things coming apart from it just standing there. Now, if you dropped this guy, more than likely the resin would break before the epoxy. Pins are really important when you're starting to bear weight or things are overhanging and things like that, where you need that extra support. But the way this is engineered, you really don't need pins in this, like in the legs or anything. There's a nice solid key here, and this is straight down. There's not some weird angle, so no pins really needed, I don't think. Like I said, if this was to drop, more than likely the resin would break before the epoxy did. So we're going to put this to the side, let it dry, and then we'll start with the skin tones. Okay, on the skin tone. So we're going to do some speckling first. I'm just using my craft paints for that. Got all the parts out here that has skin. There's no really particular order that I go in. So this is red, green, blue, purple. Let's work light to dark. How about that? Or dark to light. It's kind of how I work anyway. We'll do brown, white last. Again, so I got my airbrush here. I'm going to turn down the air pressure a little bit. I lost the needle guard for this airbrush. I need to go buy a new one. It fell on my floor somewhere and ran off. Let's actually do it on the chrome. Do that. Okay, so I'm not going to show a whole lot of this on camera because do one color is the same. Let's see, got schmutz. Oh, there we go. Okay. Put a little bit in, a little bit of water. Mix it up. And I just adjust the air pressure till it kind of speckles out. So we'll test it. There we go. You probably can't even see this, but there's little speckles on the skin. Someone asked me if you could switch out the helmets on these guys, and I don't know. I guess you have to check to see if the magnets line up. But what happens is you scuff paint when you take the helmets on and off. So I would advise against it. You can see right there on the side there, scuff some paint up. Oh, so the base coat on this is Vallejo. What did I use? Use a Vallejo color. I used Fairy Flesh as the base coat from the Nocturna series. So I'll just do this one head on camera with the red. And if I want bigger things, I can kind of pump the airbrush because it kind of. Uh-oh. I just had a power surge in the house. That was weird. It really kind of flickered. Okay. But yeah, see the paint scuffs on the eyebrow and the nose. It scuffs everywhere. So I wouldn't suggest switching out the helmets. The only one that would make sense to switch is maybe the classic helmet with this head because the other head sculpts are the same. One just has a classic helmet and one has the kind of hammered metal, the old ornate look to it. Okay, this is looking pretty good. All right, so there it is with the red. Not sure if you can see that, but I'm gonna go through and do that on all the other parts and we'll come back. Okay, so I got the red done and everything, and I went a little heavy on it, but that's okay, because I kind of want him to kind of look, I think in the end, a little like his muscles are flexing quite a bit. So now we're going with some green, and this is just Christmas green. Any green really works. Again, I'm just going to back off and mist this on. The green's kind of hard to see usually. And these are pretty watered down. Probably not even seeing this right now, but I can see it here in person. It's very subtle. I'm constantly playing with my air pressure to get the right look. Since these are craft paints and you water them down with water, it's hard to get a consistent spray out of them. I usually do it by the sound of it coming out of the airbrush. Okay, that looks pretty good. So that knocked down the red a little bit. Add a little green hue to some areas. Again, it doesn't have to be 100% cohesive because skin is not cohesive. It's got different shades, different modulations throughout, everywhere. So as long as you kind of get it looking all the similar tone, I'm okay with it kind of looking a little different here and there in some areas. By the time we do the oils and everything, I'll tie it all together anyway. This is my favorite sculpt right here, this head right here. I love the beard. All right, so I'm going to do this to the other head and the arms and everything, and then we'll come back and do the next color. All right, so next up is some blue. Again, my air pressure is being finicky right now. Blue shows up a little bit more. It's kind of a long process, but it does make a difference in the end. It just kind of gives a nice look to the skin tone underneath all the work we're going to do here in a little while. Let me add a little more water to this. My air pressure a little bit. All right, that's coming out. That's settle. All right, so we're going to do this with the blue, and then we'll come back. All right, next color is going to be purple. So by the time I'm done, some of these guys kind of like bruised up, kind of what the goal is. Yeah. That. So we're going to keep going. We'll come back. All right, next color is orange. I thin this down a little bit more so it's spraying better. Backed off quite a bit. I've got a little extra red in them. I think it'd be fine because it'll make the muscles look strict. Can't think of the word. Strained a little bit. So I'm going to do that and come back. All right, next color is going to be yellow. Back way off. I've got my air pressure turned up quite a bit. I'm having a hard time getting the craft paints to spray through, so just crank up my air pressure and back and way off. So I still kind of get a freckly look. Getting there. This takes a long time with a bunch of parts like this. Again, a lot of this is going to be covered up, but this is, again, just kind of undertoning and getting some modulation in the skin tone. So I'll do that, and we'll come back and do the next color. All right, well, I just did brown. The last color I'm going to do is white, and then we're going to seal this all, and then we'll start doing oil work. Just clean out my airbrush a little bit. I'm sure you can see all the freckling in there. It's pretty subtle. Oops. Okay, just like that. So I'll come back, I'm going to seal it, and then we'll start doing oil. Okay, on to the oils. So I'm going to do what I've been doing lately for oils. Hopefully I'm in frame and I'm recording this time. Okay, just double checking. So I'm trying this top down thing and I'm using my phone. I can't see if I'm in frame or anything. So anyway, again, this is kind of like my new go-to technique for skin, and it's been working. So doing this on top of all that freckling we do, which took a little while, should get some good results. So for Thor, here we go with a little more harsher look, a little more contrast. So I'm going to mix up a shadow color using, these are Epsilon 502 oils, modeling oil color. You can use like Winsor Newton things and oils like that, but those are crazy expensive. And these tend to dry faster. The Winsor Newtons have a lot of oil in them, linseed. That's one reason they're kind of expensive. Let's seal it shut. These are perfect for modeling. I can basically, yeah, there we go. I don't have to wait like days for these to dry. I can actually, basically, I'll put them on, and then if I need to work quicker, I'll hit them with a hairdryer. Basically until the sheen is gone, and then I can seal it and keep moving. There is a miniature painter that I met a couple of years ago at a modeling show, and he actually bakes his oils. I mix up some shadow brown with a little bit of this flesh shadow to add a little redness to it. And he bakes his oil, so he uses like a toaster oven at like 250 degrees or 225 degrees, really low, and he'll bake his oils for like 20 minutes. So I've actually thought about trying that. You gotta be careful. Like you couldn't do that with like a vinyl, but with resin you could do that. And I mixed up quite a bit here. It's way more I'm gonna need, but I'm doing that because since I use cardboard as my palette, it sucks the oils out. And this was a trick recommended by an old acquaintance of mine, Michael Fichtenmeyer, who I haven't followed him in a long time. I think he stopped following me because of some of my political joke posts on Facebook. I think he stopped following me because I make fun of Democrats and Republicans, and he's a pretty liberal guy, and he didn't like it when I make fun of liberals. Anyway, he's a good guy. I like him. He's a fantastic modeler. But he recommended using cardboard as a palette because it sucks the oils out. It kind of absorbs them, making them easier to work with. So I just kind of mix this up here. You know, it's way more than I need. These oils should last for years and years and years, but I don't know. I tend to mix more than I need, so. So I bought the flesh set, which took me a while to find. And when I did find it, it wasn't cheap. I think the whole set of oils, it was like $50. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's actually not too bad. It's like less than $10 a tube for oils. To give you an example, like a tube of Winsor Newton titanium white, like a tube this size in titanium white for Winsor Newton would be like $100. I mean, it's crazy expensive. All right, so what we did in the past, I get just kind of a pointy brush, and then I get a flat brush. I got two things of mineral spirits here. One has a first wash and one has a second wash. And I just use it, I don't thin it. And take some, and I would start in the eyes because that's like the darkest portion, and start drawing in shadows. And I take a soft brush and just use it to blend out. Like I said, I'm going to go pretty dark to begin with. And all that flecking and stuff I did is going to act as an undertone to kind of tint everything a little bit. So you may not actually see any freckling in the end, but it will just kind of tints everything. Again, I kind of do the eyes first. And I bought some more cheap brushes because I knew I was going to be doing this, and I tear these brushes up doing this, but I don't know, it works for me. It seems to be working on the last dozen pieces or so we're going to stick with it. Okay. And then I like to back up and kind of look at both eyes, make sure that they're relatively similar. And there's a wrinkle right here. hit these wrinkles in the brows. Again, we're going to start pretty dark with this guy and work our way up. There's a wrinkle here. And there's a wrinkle here. Let's see what this flat brush and just kind of this number. And these were sealed before I started doing this. In the last few videos, people ask me, what do I seal with? Krylon flat. I keep getting asked what I seal with. It's like Krylon flat. I'll get the can here in a little bit. And then we're going to do these creases right here. The frown. I think that's what you call this. We'll call it a frown. And then bring some oil up around the nose and nostril. And I'm just going to take what's on my flat brush and kind of come underneath the nose a little bit. Right here, there's this little spot on the upper lip. And I have a Q-tips on standby, so like right here I got a little extra on the nostril. I'm going to wipe that away. Not too much on there, just take it off. A Q-tip's actually a really good blending tool also. I'm going to take what's on my brush right here and just kind of bring this shadow down. I don't need it real dark, so I'm going to come in and just use what's left on my brush to bring that in. So you can see we're starting to get some real nice kind of hard definitions going on here in the sculpt. The corners of the mouth. Get a chisel brush. A chisel brush is my favorite to use for this kind of stuff. Again, I got somewhere I don't want it, so I'm just going to wipe it off. Let's go underneath the lip right here. I'm going to kind of fan this up this way, blend it a little bit more. I come here and blend this down a little bit more, so it's not so harsh, a little softer transition.
Okay, so on Tuesday night after
Okay, so now I'm going in and hitting inside the ears here. The deepest shadows. I think I only have to do one ear. I think all the other ears there are no ears on the other head, and this is the one that you only see. So, yay, because I really don't like doing ears. I may have been a little heavy right there. That's okay. We'll lighten it up later. Again, a little too much right now. I don't want to get too much on the highlighted areas. Not the end of the world. It's a very forgiving process, I find, too. So it's like, okay, so there's the ear. So we got the eyes. Let's do the neckline. I'm just taking whatever little oil I have on this brush here and just fanning it up towards the Adam's apple. So I'll just do one head on camera, and I'll do everything else, the arms and everything else off camera, because it'll be the same process. Stab that. Soften it up with this nice big chisel brush. As you can see, even though I'm using a pretty heavy shadow color, I'm still seeing all the tonality I kind of did earlier with the flecking and stuff. It's still there, just subtle. Okay, I'm going to highlight that Adam's apple a little bit more. Hit underneath this jawline pretty hard. When I do skin tones, it really kind of looks really funky till the very, very end. So it takes a while before I start looking like how I want it to look. You can just have to anticipate what all the different steps to do. There, hit this little cleft in his chin. So I'm just going to take what oils I have on my brush right here and kind of come in and bring out the cheekbones a little bit. So this face is just about done with this heavy shadow color. Gotta do around the back of the neck. Just have a temple right there. I'm actually using 3 brushes right now. I usually use 2 brushes, but I'm using 3 right now. There's a really subtle shadow right here. Really hard to see until you turn it in the light. So today, my goal today is to kind of get all the oil work done. And then if I don't get any further, I can do the last bit. I can finish up like the eyes and the only thing I'm really glad about is none of the mouths are open. They're all closed mouths. I don't have to worry about doing any teeth or gums because those take me forever. He's not angry Thor, he's just powerful Thor. So some of these really subtle shadows I'm seeing, I'm just taking whatever's on my brush and just kind of accentuating it a little bit, like right here by the ear. A little bit right there. And they'll be accentuated more as I build up the midtones and stuff too. So I have a brush in my mouth, that's why it's I'm talking kind of weird. And then we're gonna do all the veins. He's got a lot of veins. Franco likes his veins on his characters. That's looking really good. So let me show you why I like a chisel brush. Because of the shape of it, I can go in here and I can, when I push on it this way, I get more pressure on the lower bristles and more pressure down here and less up there. And it just naturally kind of fades it up into the shadow. It's just the way when you put pressure on the brush, it does a real good job of just kind of naturally fading those oils into the shadow or whatever you're trying to blend. I love a chisel brush when I'm doing this. It's my favorite. So this didn't take too long to do this head. I'll go and do the other heads after this. Get them all similar. And then we'll do the arms and hands. Back here, you're not going to see this, will all be covered by hair, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Let me get this back side of the ear. So that's what it looks like after doing the harsh shadows. Looking pretty good. So, okay, I see a little bit right here. I can kind of do a little accentuation. Again, I've got some little subtle ones. I'm just going to hit it lightly. Not crazy heavy. All right, I'm going to hit inside the nostrils pretty good. I did one piece last year, and the client came back. It's like, oh, you missed a little paint up in the nostril. Like, okay. And I'm like really self-conscious about getting up underneath in the nostrils. Okay. And so there's a spot where I don't want, if I got a little too much paint, I can go back and wipe it off with a Q-tip. All right, so that's what that looks like. So I'm gonna go back and do the other heads and the arms, then we'll come back and we'll start building up midtones and stuff. Hopefully you guys can, I was in frame. Okay, so we got that deep shadow put in everything. It took a couple hours to do, but here are the heads. Looking good. Here's bearded head. Those are all looking good. Here's an example. I don't know, it's a little jarring right now, but we're gonna blend it in here. So I'm gonna use the I'm gonna clean off this brush and this brush. I'll try to dry them off as much as possible because the mineral spirits doesn't dry very quick. So sometimes, a lot of times, I'll just use a new brush. Okay. So there's that. Okay, so now we're gonna go to basic flesh. What's this one? Center flesh. Basic flesh. I'm gonna put more out here than I need. I think we're gonna mix a little bit of pink to it. Like that. Different brush, I think. Let's put this brush over here to dry. And we're gonna get another chisel brush. Put this one over here to dry. And let's get a flat brush. Okay, so we're gonna start with this head. Make sure I'm in frame. I'm going to take this little brush here. Take a little bit of this mixture, and we're going to start blending this in. So I put a little dab and blend it in. Dab. Blending it up into the shadow. Little dab. And blend. I have not sealed this. I'm just going right over the previous oils. Help blend. One more. Hit it again. And dab. Again, I'll just do one head on camera. I'll do everything else off and then come back. Let's see how we're looking. I typically do 3 rounds. I do the shadow, then like a mid-tone, and a very bright highlight for a very last thing. I can kind of brush it a little bit if I want. So starting to kind of tie this all together a little bit. Not talking a lot because not much to say. Just keep putting it on and dabbing, blending. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'll come back when I'm done, because it's just the same thing, just hitting the highlights and blending it in. Okay, so I went through and did all that highlighting stuff. I'm going to actually mist out a little skin tone here, because I want to tie this all together a little bit more, so I'm just backing way off, and it's going to kind of fan this on. I think I'm a little too heavy with my shadows to begin with, so I'm going to just lightly mist on the skin tone. Just kind of tie this all together a little bit more. And that's getting closer to what I want. This is a custom mix I made up from GarageKits.us. It's medium African flesh, bronze flesh, and semi-transparent virgin flesh. But that's kind of what I want right there. So I'm going to do that to everything. Seal it, and I'm going to probably airbrush on a little pale flesh. So I'll come back when I'm ready for that. Okay, so now I'm going to mist on some transparent pale flesh. I just mixed it right in the airbrush along with the previous color. Now this stuff goes a very long way, so I'm just going to back way off. I'm just going to kind of warm this up a little bit. I'm out of my gold toner, which I typically use for kind of shifting color skin tones, but that's looking pretty good. This will give it a little more fleshiness to it. So I do that to everything, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so the last thing I did is I actually misted on some transparent pale flesh from GarageKits.us, and this is what I got. And I think this is where we're going to end for the day. It's looking pretty good. Bring it down a little bit. So it's a nice kind of masculine skin tone. I'm going to seal these tonight, and then I'll put in the beards and the eyebrows, and do the hair, and that'll give me a better idea of skin tones, and see if I need to go in and do any of the work. But I kind of like this look on him. So there's the heads. I'll show you one of the arms. So still got some really nice shading going on and a nice fleshy skin tone. I think that looks pretty good. So I got to do the veins too, and I'm deciding whether I should do those with. I'll probably do those with maybe some watercolors or something, just real light with the brush. But that's where we are for today. I'll just keep this work in progress going. All right, so it's Friday. We're gonna see if we can get this guy wrapped up today. So yesterday we kind of worked on skin tones. I took a good portion of the day. I'm gonna take a look at them, see if I like them. I typically have to kind of sleep on it to see how I feel. Also, one thing I did before I went to bed last night is I base coated the eyes and I base coated the hair. So the hair I base coated in this kind of, I don't know, this kind of fleshy tan color. I'm going to give this a wash and we'll start dry brushing our highlights. I think the skin tones are looking pretty good. I wanted kind of a more masculine look. I think I've accomplished that. I'm going to do a little kind of some red washes on the cheeks and stuff and some purple in the eyes to give it a little more life. Let's look at some of the arms. I got to do the veins. I think this is looking pretty good. Yeah, I wasn't sure last night when I finished up if I was going to be happy with this, but I think I'm digging it. So we're a little punchier with the skin tones, a little more neutral tone. I'm digging it. So once we do the veins, I think these will look really good. I'm digging the hands. The hands look really nice. I'm liking it. I got to do the thumbnails. So yeah, so I think we still have a lot of work to do, but I think I can get done today. That's my goal. So I got to do the hammer still too. So I think the first thing I want to do is I want to get the hair knocked out, get that taken care of, because that really will tell me how my skin tones are looking. So if you're struggling with skin tones, I personally found out that if you get to a point where you think, okay, I think I like them, put the hair in, because what that's going to do is going to frame the face and everything. It'll really tell you how your skin tones are looking. But this has a real nice kind of undertone from all that flecking we did. It's very, very subtle, but it's there. So you got kind of like some random, like the blues and the greens and the yellows. It's there. It's just very, very subtle, which is what I kind of go for. But I wanted really kind of harsh shadows on this guy because the sculpt is really, really nice. And so I wanted to kind of accentuate that a little, over accentuate that. Okay, for the wash, I'm going to go in, if I have enough of it. I really like this Vallejo Gameworks Sepia ink. Let's see if I got enough. I don't know. I need to get some more of their inks. I really like them. Nope, it's not in there. Crap. Let's see. What do I have? What's this? Oh, I do have a whole other thing. Okay, so this is going to add brown to this, a brownish red. And then we're going to start brushing, getting this up to a blonde. So so his beard has a lot of great texture. And I'm just going to be careful because I don't want to get wash on the skin. I'm actually going to water this down a little bit. And I did seal these last night before I went to bed. A little too thick for what I want. So I'm going to add a little water to this. There we go. And I got some Q-tips on standby. Let's see what this does. I find blonde hair is a hard thing to do. That's why I kind of get down in the crevices here. Because blonde is not yellow. It's really kind of different shades of tan. And the very first time I tried to do blonde hair, it did not turn out well. It looked really like sunny yellow. And I was not happy with it. I'm just going to be real careful around the edges. So I kind of tend to start brown with blonde and then work my way up. And we'll see. Again, I'm kind of going for a harsher look on this guy because the sculpt kind of lends itself to it. Again, all those nice crevices and stuff. You don't want to put this on crazy runny because it'll get all over your skin tones. I'm hoping I'm in frame. I think I am. I'm going to do this to the beard, the eyebrows, and the hair. And then we'll seal it. And I'm going to show you what I seal with, because everyone asks me, what do you use for sealer? And I show the can and tell everyone in a lot of videos. I guess no one listens to me. Kind of like being married, no one listens to me. Okay. So this wash, you just kind of let it dry. You can't really force it. If you hit it with a hair dryer, it's so runny, it'll blow everywhere. So I avoid hitting the washes with a hair dryer. But what I could do while this dries, I can work on the hammer. So again, we'll be bouncing around a lot today because as something dries, we'll work on something else. Oops, yeah, I just had some wash on my hand. My finger, I didn't want to get it up there yet. So I'm just working this real slow. Again, because I'm trying to be very specific on where I put this. So basically this is the shadow color right here. And it'll brighten up as we start to dry brush on other lighter tones. But this is kind of and then what I could do, depending on when I'm done with the hair, I can go back and look at it. And if I need to, I can go back in with some pastels and just kind of hit the edges a little bit to blend it into the skin a little bit more, to kind of ground the hair. I'm constantly saying the word ground because if you don't blend things, then they just look like they're kind of floating, and you don't want this beard and the hair to look like it's floating. Like it's not part of the figure. You want it to kind of blend in. Okay, so there's the beard. That'll dry down nicely. And then I'll do the eyebrows, and then I'll do everything else off camera. Eyebrows are always hard for me because sometimes they're not very well defined. Luckily, Franco did a good job of defining them on this piece. Yeah. Now as this is drying, this is shifting the color right where I wanted it. So adding a little bit of red to this, red and brown, actually kind of got in the right color family. Okay, so there we go. So that's what it looks like the wash. So I'm going to do that to the other faces and the hair. And then while this is drying, I got to do this part where I have my finger. We will work on the hammer. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so I'm waiting for the wash on the hair to dry. I went ahead and masked off the wrist, I guess the bracelets. And I'm going to go ahead and spray the red on first. This is Mr. Color GX Red, same color used on the cape. And then we're going to do some shading on the red, and I'll just hand paint the black band. And those will just paint the whole thing. And then we're going to do some shading on the red. I'm just going over the flesh tones with this because they're They're a consistent color, so they'll be fine. And they need to be a little darker than the cape, but I think it'll be nice. It'll be the same color family, just a little different tone. Okay, so like that. Still deciding how I want to do the veins. I've done them with pastels in the past. I've done them with watercolors in the past. So we'll see. Gonna be done with a brush, that's for sure. So these arms were sealed last night before I went to bed, so they've had a good 12 hours to dry before masking. Like that. And well, these dry for just a few minutes. By the time I clean out my airbrush, I can go in there and do some shading. I think I'll just use some clear black. Be nice. Darken them down, give some nice contrast. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna pause and come back, and then we'll do some shading. All right, so I got some clear black mixed in my airbrush. These are dried just for a few minutes. And we're gonna come in here and add a little shading. Yeah, it's a little too thin. We'll see. In there. Bring more. I'm building it up real slow because this goes a long way. So I'm spraying from this way in. I'm going to hit this where it meets the black band a little bit. Real light. This will show more after I seal it. You may not be able to see it in camera right now, but I can see it. That's about it. So I can do that to the other three, other two, and I'll seal it, and then we'll paint the black band. Okay, so I just sealed those again, or I just sealed them. Now I'm going to answer this question again. So I use Krylon Max Flat Crystal Clear for my sealer. If I use like a hobby sealer, like the Vallejo or anything like that, I would spend so much money on sealer. I buy this like 12, sometimes 24 cans at a time, because in a single project like Thor, I'll go through 3 or 4 cans of this easily. It's like $4 a can. So you can get different effects from it. You can get a really flat finish if you just kind of mist it on. You can get like a semi-gloss if you hose it on, but you have to be careful. You got to shake it up really good. And make sure your paint's dry, at least the lacquers, because I've actually had wrinkling on lacquers. If I don't shake it and I spray it, all you do is get solvent and it wrinkles the paint. So make sure you shake the crap out of it. I'll warm it up if it's cool outside or cool in my studio. I'll go put in a sink of hot water, warm it up, shake it really good for about a minute, and then you're good to go. So that's what I use. So everyone who asks me what I seal with, Krylon Flat Crystal Clear. They do have an artist flat, which I haven't tried. It's a little more expensive, but I can get this at Lowe's, which is right down the street from me. So again, I used to use like Mr. Color Flat, but that little jar's $4, and I would spend $100 on sealer easily per project if I use a hobby sealer. So rattle can is the way to go for these big projects. So here it is, Krylon Max Crystal Clear. All right, jumping around again. Since I just sealed the red, I want to let that dry for a little while, and I'll go and hand paint the black band. So I'm going to work on the hammer. I'm going to do the fingernails towards the end, and the veins, probably see the veins at the very end. So I still have a lot of work today. I'm going to try to get this done today, because I have a busy weekend ahead of me with birthdays and stuff. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hand paint the leather strap, or the leather wrap, and the leather handle. Because I want to be able to mask this off and do like a hammered metal look to this, which requires sponging. So I want to be able to get this going, let that dry for a couple hours, mask it off, and then do a sponging technique on this with the wash and everything. So that's why I'm going to do the handle first. And for that, I would like, again, I'm just doing what I like. My client has liked everything I've done so far, so we're just going to keep doing what I want. I want this kind of a reddish leather look, so I'm going to start with this is some red oxide. Actually, let me put this in I waste a lot of paint when I use those. This is the Liquitex heavy body acrylics, which I really like. These are about $3 to $4 a bottle. I can get them on sale sometimes. So, I actually have a wet palette. I bought a wet palette because, what's the guy's name? I started following him recently. He's gonna, he watches my videos because he comments. But I need to remember his name, put a link down below, or do a YouTube video, because he's very entertaining. He's an excellent painter, and most of his videos deal with 3D printing and painting. So I subscribe and I follow him, and I've learned a lot. He does a lot of hand painting, but he had a contest where he could win one of these Army Painter wet palettes. I didn't win, even though I told him I really needed one. I didn't win, so I went and bought one. So I've never owned a wet palette before, so I'm kind of learning how to use them. So I'm gonna soak this with water. Let that sponge soak it up, and then we got this paper you're supposed to use. And the few times I have used this, I just end up with a soupy mess. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but I end up with a big soupy mess in the middle. Maybe I'm putting too much water in. Who knows? I don't know how to use these things. So this is some red ox. I'm going to throw this on the wet palette. God, I need to look up his. I think it's like Bad Landscape or Bad something. I forgot his YouTube channel. He's a very entertaining painter. I really enjoy watching him. And his videos are relatively short. They're usually around 10 minutes. So, yeah, I'm going to try to plug him because I really like his channel. And I'm going to mix a little burnt sienna in with this red oxide. Okay, so if I can get this, these tubes are totally jacked. Where the cap screw on, they're all messed up. So I'm going to mix this up in here. So one thing I don't like on my wet palette, I don't know if I like the water doesn't seem to come through this paper. I thought it was supposed to kind of like thin your paints out, but I'm always having to put water on top of it. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing wrong. So anyone who watches this that uses a wet palette, what the hell am I doing wrong? Because I thought this was supposed to let some water through the paper, but I don't know. I tend to have to add water on top of it, so maybe I'm not using enough water. Hell, I don't know. Half the time I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to hand paint this on, base coat this. I love these heavy body acrylics. They cover very well. You do have to... so this is going on pretty much straight. It's not really thin. I guess the wet palette's more to like preserve your paints, but I've seen guys who do it and like it thins the paints too. So hell, I don't know. I'm doing something wrong. So I'm just going to brush along with the pattern of the leather to hide the brush strokes. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do a wash, and you can hear my robot vacuum downstairs tearing the place up, so that's what that noise is if you hear that. So, yeah, anyone who uses a wet palette, what the hell am I doing wrong? Because I've never used one before. Everyone's like, you never use a wet palette? It's like, no, I just put her in a little cup and go. So yeah, so I'm just going to, be careful around the hands and stuff. This is acrylic, so... I will tell you a secret to cleaning up acrylics. If you kind of get it on something that you don't want to, I find it easier to clean them up after they've dried a little bit, because if you just go and try to wipe it off right away, you're just going to smear it, especially if you just use water. So I find if I let it dry and I use a toothpick, I can go kind of chip it off, and it doesn't hurt the underlying surface because it's not cured. There's a difference between dried and cured. Dried means it's just like dry to the touch. Cured means it's all the way through dry. So if you wait till like the next day, then yeah, you're gonna have a hell of a time getting it off. But I tend to let it dry 10-15 minutes, and then I can go back with a toothpick and just kind of scrape it off. And if you have a good sealed surface below it, they'll come right off. So thank God, there's no, his fingers are together and there's no leather strap in between his fingers, because that's like annoying as hell when you have to try to get in between fingers and paint. I hate that. Because then you just get paint everywhere where you don't want it. So I'm only going to need one coat of this. And that's a little bright right now, but I guess I'm going to do a wash. I'll do this. I'll do a wash that sepia, the same I did on the hair, which will bring it more to the brownish tone with underlying red, and then we'll do some dry brushing and stuff on it and bring out the details. So I'm just using cheap brushes. I don't buy good brushes. I have one Series 7 brush that I'll use every once in a while. But see, I thought this paper was supposed to get water through it, so it's not like thinning. I don't know. I need a YouTube on how to use a wet palette because I'm a wet palette virgin. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you this whole process because this shouldn't take but a minute to base coat. And it dries down quite a bit. It'll dry down at least half a shade. So I actually may do, because the color I have in mind is kind of like a burgundy color. I don't know. So I may do like a dark kind of burgundy wash on it and then dry brush. We'll see. I don't know. That may be too dark for this. I'm not being crazy careful. I'm just making sure I'm following the pattern of the sculpt because the leather's got a pattern. You know, the wrapping has got sculpted texture in it. So there's the handle. This part will get painted metal, so I'm not worried about that. And then we'll paint this strap real quick. We'll make these the same color. Which makes sense to me. Again, I'm not being super careful. I'm just kind of slapping it on there and smoothing it out. When I do the metallics, I'll be obviously careful because I don't want to get paint on the leather. I think I may do the pommel a different color than the hammer. Maybe I'll do a darker metal and do the hammer. It's kind of typical. I don't know. It's like a aluminum, titanium look. I don't know what metal it's called. Is it right? It's not vibranium, is it? No, I don't think it is. This will take a little while to dry because these are rather thick acrylics, so they do take some time to dry before I can do anything else. But again, while this is drying, I'll hand paint the black on the wrists, and I can work on the eyes and put the eyes in. That will I won't show that on camera because again I got to do decals and. All right, so there you go. There's the base coat of that. That's going to dry down nicely, and then we'll do some washes and dry brushes on that when we come back. So let me wash this brush out, and then we'll, since we're here, I'll just keep recording, and I'll show a little quick. Just wash this brush out. It's going to be 100% because we're using black, and I'll just go ahead and use some Vallejo black here. I'm going to put my optivisor on, so hopefully it's not in frame when I do this. So it's been lightly sealed. I didn't put a lot on. I just need enough to where if I mess up a little bit, I can wipe it off. So I do around the edge first. Do your cut in work. So one thing I learned a couple of years ago is that I always thought I had to use the tiniest brush to do stuff. You actually want to use the biggest brush that you can. And as long as that brush can go down to a tip or a point, then you're in business. I was trying to use really tiny brushes. I mean, they're good for certain things, but what I find is that then you run out of paint or it dries too fast before you get to the surface of what you're trying to paint. just got a little bit on there. I'll wipe it off here in a minute. See, I wish there's no water up here, so I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. There should be some water up here, yeah? Not thinning the paint. I thought this paper was kind of semi porous. Unless there's a specific side of the paper that's supposed to be on the down. I don't know. Is the paper different on both sides? Alright, I'll just do one of these on the camera because you probably can't see what I'm doing anyway. What I do is I kind of hit the brush on the edge and I let half the bristles go over the edge to get right up against the red and the other half on the top side of this bracelet. I get a really nice clean line. As long as the brush is loaded correctly, it'll flow out and go where it needs to go. Okay, just like that. It'll probably take 2 coats overall, just to hide any thin spots, even though it's black. But there you go. That's what you do. So I'll let that dry. I'll hit it again with another coat, and then we'll seal it, and then those wrist guards will be done. So we'll come back for the next thing. Okay, so I unmasked the hand, their arms, sealed those again, so those are drying. So I just sealed this a little bit ago, and we're gonna do a wash on it. And I'm just gonna use that sepia ink again. I didn't thin it this time. I'm just gonna put it on here. Be careful not to get on the skin if you can avoid it. So if you don't thin this stuff, it's actually kind of thick. Not quite as thin as not really like a thin wash. I'm going to go in here and kind of work it a little bit just to kind of thin it out a little bit, but with that kind of reddish oxide undertone, we'll get a nice rich leather look. We start dry brushing and bring out the details. So the thing we're going to do is after I get the hammer done, we're going to get the fingernails done. I sealed the hair, so I got to let that dry before I start dry brushing that to bring out the details. So again, we're just bouncing around a lot today. Just give me to wipe my brush off every once in a while. That's just to kind of get the excess liquid off, so I can go back and work what's on here a little bit and kind of soak up some of the excess. Okay. Yeah, that's actually drying down right to where I want it before I go in and do the dry brushing. It's kind of what I had in my head as far as like the darkness of it. Sometimes I take too much off. Let me go back and put some back on. It should dry a little quicker since I didn't water it down. This should be drying relatively fast. Okay. I'll make sure you get right up underneath the hand there, because it goes right up to the hand. Whenever I have that dark, then light, because it'll create a shadow. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna let this dry for a few minutes, then I'll seal it, and then we'll do some dry brushing on it and all that stuff. So let that sit. Let's see. For the hair, I don't know if I have to mix up the colors. I don't know if I have a color that I want to use on the hair. I'll come back. Okay, so I think I have a color mixed up here that I like. I mixed up whatever I had left of this heavy golden brown. This is a little heavy skin tone. Then I added some yellow to it. So I kind of have this yellowish tan that we're going to start dry brushing on the hair. And we'll test it on the beard first. Hopefully this works. We will see. So let me get a paper towel because we're going to do dry brushing. A little bit on. But yeah, blonde hair is really not yellow. It's basically different shades of tan. Make sure we're in frame. Okay. Let's see what this does. Hopefully it works. Just use a flat part of my brush. Start building this up. Actually, just go back and forth a little bit. And again, I like this chisel brush because I can dry brush right up to the edge. Something relatively easy. So I just got a little bit on the kind of chisel area of the brush so I can get up here on the beard. Or not the beard, but the mustache. Yeah, this is looking good. By the time I highlight, add white to this. We'll have a nice blonde look to them. I'll just show a little bit of the beard on here. I'll do the rest off camera. I'll do one more highlight after this. Yeah, that's looking good. And if I get anything on the skin, I can go through and just clean it up with a really light Q-tip, but anything that kind of get around the edges will just kind of help blend it in a little bit, I think. So right now I'm just kind of getting a little, just around the very tip of this chisel brush. I can get right up to the skin and avoid getting any on the skin if I can help it. And then we'll do the eyebrows a little bit. Eyebrows, you gotta really use the flat part of the brush because the details aren't sculpted as deep. So that's looking pretty good. All right, so we're gonna continue doing this on everything, and then we'll seal it, and then we'll do another highlight, adding probably white or just maybe some pure white. Okay, so when I'm doing these big pieces, I'm going perpendicular to the hair strands. I'm also going with the hair strands a little bit to blend in that wash a little bit, just so it's not so jarring. But so it's gonna take a couple rounds of dry brushing to get this where I want, but we'll just do it slowly. So I kind of go this way a little bit. And then I come this way a little bit. And even though I'm going this way, it's still going to hit those tops of the hairs first, so it'll bring those out. But it'll get a little bit of this color down into the grooves just a little bit so it blends. So it's not just so jarring as far as the base color and the wash goes. You'll still see it. It'll just blend more naturally. So I kind of go this way first. And some of the areas of the hair are sculpted a little bit deeper than others, so some of the strands will be more prominent, and then I come this way a little bit. As the brush loses paint, that's when I kind of come back and go this direction. That's so I don't get a lot of paint down the groove. I just want a little bit. And this is starting to look pretty good, I think. So we'll keep going. Alexa, play. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and do my next highlight color. We'll see if this is it. So what I did is I took that previous color I had and I added a natural buff to it, so it's not pure white. So we now got even like a really light kind of tannish color. And if this goes the way I think it should go, this should be the last step for the hair. So we're gonna again test it out on the beer. It's a really good way to test this. And let's put this other to the side. And we're gonna concentrate on the high areas and the tips of the hair, stuff like that. I didn't seal these. I thought I was gonna seal these before I did this step, but there's really no need to do it. So let's make sure I'm in frame. I'm not sure how often I'm in frame because I can't see my camera from where I'm working. So again, this is just a brighter color. Well, I'm gonna try it out. I may even go brighter than this because it does dry down. Let's see if I'm right over kind of this area, then you can see what I'm doing. I think that's a good looking blonde. Pretty natural looking, I think. Yeah, I'm kind of digging it. I could probably go in with just a touch of just kind of buff by itself. Just one final highlight. We'll see. That's actually looking really good, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna go out to dinner with, we're just go out to dinner with, yeah.
Okay. I think that looks pretty damn good. I don't know if I want to go any brighter than that. I think that looks good. I think it's a real natural looking blonde color. So I'm going to do that to everything else. And I'm going to send a picture of my client, see what he says. Okay, now I'm going to dry brush the handle on the hammer. I sealed it. I've got this kind of, I don't know, this tone mixed up here. There's a little bit of red oxide, a little bit of heavy skin tone, and a little bit of raw umber. So let's see how this looks. I'm just using the same brush I did for the hair. I didn't even clean it off. I'm just going to dry brush this. And may airbrush a little bit on here too. Gotta be careful by doing airbrushing not to get anything on the hand. I could just do pastels. Maybe I'll do pastels. Darken this. Not exactly the color I was thinking, so I may adjust this a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and do this all over and then adjust it a little bit. Then go ahead and finish with this so I don't, so at least I stay consistent. Actually, as it's drying down, it's pretty close to what I was thinking. I think going a little more red oxide in there. Let's think of it like a really warm tone. This is a little more neutral. It's okay. We'll just keep it on there. Let me get some of that red oxide. Where is it? Right here. By itself and see what happens. There we go. That's kind of what I was thinking. I want like a really warm, almost kind of a little bit of red leather, I think. Be a nice contrast against the skin and the metal and everything. Yeah, that's looking good right there. All right, keep working this a little bit. Oops, I got some on the hand. Don't want that. Okay. That's looking pretty good, I think. I'm going to seal this. And then I think we're going to go with some pastels and do a little more kind of shading. So we'll come back. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go in here and do a little airbrushing real tight. I got some like kind of clear brownish color mixed in here. And let's see what this does. Make sure you guys can see what's happening here. The mount divisor's on the way. I don't know. I'm just kind of hitting in between these wraps and letting the overspray kind of do its thing. And I'll get close to the hand here in a minute. As we're doing what I want to do is shading and toning that. You still see that red in there a little bit, but it's just toning it down just a hair. Be real careful next to the hands. I usually don't like airbrushing that close to something like that without masking, but I'm going to shade up under the hand just a little bit. Just creates a little shadow. I kind of have one there when I do the skin tones, but yeah, it's looking good. So this paint's not very thin, so it's dry tipping a little bit, even though it's a lacquer. This a little bit more. It's going on the way I like. It's a little thick. There it goes. I just had a little dry tip. You gotta get it off. Yeah, this is going to be exactly how I kind of pictured in my head. Just kind of get work around. I got to play with stuff to get there. Like I said, it's rare that I have a game plan. I just kind of start playing with colors. I know what I want it to look like. you guys can see what I'm doing. I don't know. That's gonna look really sharp. Okay. I'll come in here and do the handle. Get all the creases and folds. I love using clear paint, the transparencies, because you can still see all your dry brushing and stuff underneath it. Has a lot of depth. I hit this pretty hard underneath there. It's a hard shadow. Okay. Let's seal this. The leather will be done, and then we can work on the metal. Okay, that's gonna look really nice once I seal it. All right, so this dry, we'll seal it, and then we'll do the metal. Okay, so while the sealer was dried, I went ahead and threw the eye decals in the heads. That didn't take too long. They're drying. Those will take several steps to do, but I need to do those off camera because I gotta have my optimizer on to see what I'm doing. Okay, the metal on the hammer. Excuse me. I'm gonna silly putty this off real quick. Of course, I don't have any ready. Alright, I'm using a silly putty because this is, this is pretty fresh paint. And I can't use tape. So I'm just gonna, any little touch-ups around the edges I'll do with the brush. But I want to be able to sponge on, do a sponging technique on this hammer. And mostly this part of the hammer, so you'll probably get away without taping this. Because I'll do the hammer one color, I think I'll do this part and this part a slightly different color. Okay. Actually not sponging, but let's use a paintbrush. So I'm going to stipple on some black. Where's my wet towel? There it is. Then we'll stipple on some metals, then we'll do a wash and all sorts of, fun stuff as usual. Okay, so just kind of take this black here. And I'm stippling because I want to see all the different tones kind of through this. So I don't care if this is 100% opaque right now. Actually, I prefer it not to be 100% opaque. Should put a glove on. I'm kind of doing wet on wet. I'm going to just, once I get this on, and then I'm going to start stippling on a metallic. different metallics to get a kind of a hammered metal look, because that's what my reference was given to me by my client. It was like a hammered. It's not just one color or one metallic. So when people give me a reference, that's just kind of my go by, and then I do my own kind of variation on that, because again, you send me a reference of a painter, I'm not that painter. I'm not gonna be able to replicate exactly what they do. But it gives me an idea of what you want. Just enough black paint on here to do what I need to do. Want to make sure I really get down in these carvings and stuff. Probably will do a little dry brushing on this. Okay. Yeah, the dry brushing will bring out the details in the carvings. Okay. I'm really making sure I get down in those carvings. Okay. That's a good starting point. Just gonna put that down so I don't care if it kind of gets messed up a little bit. Let's go with where is it? We have this burnt iron. I don't know if I have any. I need to get a new set of Vallejo metal colors because I'm just about out of them. And these are like my go. I love these metallics. Okay, so this is burnt iron. We're going to kind of go again dark to light. And you're probably not going to see a whole lot of this to begin with because it's on top of black. That's okay. There's some in there. Again, I want the inconsistency of the stippling. This is probably the color I'll use on the pommel and this other part that's holding the hammer on right here. This is a nice color. And it's not on top of black, it's not nearly as dark. Okay. So that looks pretty good. I think I got even coverage. Put that to the side. And we're going to get out some chrome. This won't look chrome because it just won't. But on top of this, we'll get a nice effect. So I actually have a paper towel here I can kind of dab off excess. This is Vallejo Metal Color Chrome. I'm going to rotate the brush as I go. Just to vary up the pattern. And this right here is the look that we're going for. So I'm just going to work one side at a time. So right there, that looks really fucking good. This technique tears up brushes, so use cheap brushes. Hobby Town, you get them half off. Let's stock up. Come back up here just to blend it in a little bit to the other, that top side we did. We'll do a pin wash in these carvings. Yeah, looking really sharp. You got to rotate your brush to this way. You don't get, because if you don't, you'll get an obvious pattern in your stippling, and it will not look natural. So rotate your brush. Otherwise, you'll get rows of pattern from doing this. And come back up here and hit these carvings a little more. This will probably be a pretty long work in progress because we're going to try to cover the remainder of the paint in this. The first day was really productive. And then we did the second day was a little slower. The yellow took all day. The yellow took a full day to do. All right, that's looking good. I'm probably just gonna come right over the black, but I think the burnt iron's got a little warmness to it, so it just kind of warms things up a little bit, so it's not so cold looking. Okay. Actually, probably didn't need any silly putty, but it just made me feel good to put it on there. And these paints are great. The more you work them, the better they look, which is like totally opposite of what a metallic is. Like this in the liquid metal. Are great. Okay, I can actually hold this now because it's dry to the touch. Okay. So that's for the main metal of the hammer. It looks really good. I got this nice random metal look to it. So I'm going to put this to the side. Clean out this brush a little bit. A little alcohol. And I'm going to take this burnt iron that I had before. I'm going to just kind of pour a little bit in here with this chrome. And I'm going to paint around. So this is actually pretty quick to paint the hammer. It took a little while. And this will just give it a nice contrast, I think, between the leather handle and minor. I always forget how to say this. I always say it wrong, so I don't even intend to say the hammer, horse hammer. All right. So I think you get the idea there. I'm going to finish this up and we'll come back and take a look at it. All right, so now I'm working on fingernails and I'll see if I can show you what I'm doing. I'm using oils because it's easier to blend. So what I have is I got this really light skin tone mixed up right here, almost white. It'll dry down though when it's done. And so I'm just drawing in a kind of a cuticle shape. And so I can do this. I got my optimizer on, but hopefully my head's not in the way. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just drawing the shape of the cuticle. It's kind of like a half moon shape, like that. And then I'm taking a soft brush like this, just tapping, soften it up, just like that. So we kind of have a cuticle in there. So I'm going to do that to all of them, and then the fingernails will have a little more detail in them. All right, so again, while I wait for stuff to dry, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start adding some little pinkness to the cheek here. And all I've done is I've added some craft paint with a lot of water. You take a flat brush like this, or any kind of brush, really, just make sure it's clean. And just dab it on the cheek. And then take a Q-tip and just dab. And I just do this over and over again, a couple times until I get the look I want. You don't need a lot. You just want to do it real slow. We're just tinting the skin. I'm just going to do it on the tops of the cheek here. It's very subtle, but man, it makes a huge difference in the portraits. I do about 3 times. It also depends on how much water you have in the paint. The Q-tip just blots it and blends it out. And just like that. Over here. Just like that. You can see you got the eye decals in. Just letting those dry. Also, while the decals dry, I'm going to put a little purple in the eye sockets. Real lightly. So the way I do this, you don't want to let this dry on the skin. You want to dab it on and blot it off right away. This guy's got some tighter cheekbones. Typically just do this on the cheeks. Not sure if other people what they do, but okay, just like that. A little redness to the cheeks. Oh crap. Shit. These faces you're not going to see a whole lot because they're underneath the helmet, but we're going to do them up anyway. So someone's asking if you can switch out the helmets. You actually can, but you scrape paint. Everything's a pretty tight fit between the hair and the helmets. So I would not recommend switching out helmets, personally. Okay. Looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little bit of purple. Excuse me. Here we go. Just a hair, and a lot of water. And we're going to do this in the eye sockets. Just in the lower part of the eye socket. So it's mostly water. Just use the same brush I was using for the red. I'm just going to do a little bit right here. Put it in. And dab. This is crazy subtle here. That's really it. I think I'm the portrait. I think everything we're going to do the lips, and then the portraits will be done except for just finish up the eye details, which is the waterline, stuff like that. And we're in good shape. I get the portraits knocked out here in a few minutes, or next 30 minutes. All I got to do is really the veins, which will take some time. Okay, again, just very subtle with the purple. We just want to add a little coolness underneath the eye. This is my favorite. I love this portrait. Franco killed it on this one. So the eyes, for the most part, except for one portrait looking up into his left towards the hammer, and the younger portrait kind of like looking just straight up. Okay. Here we go. So while we're here, we can work on the lips. And lips, I tend to do with oils again. So just do a little, where's my palette? Here it is. Crap. Palette just got water everywhere. 1 second as I clean up. Cut. Hold on, I gotta clean up. Good thing the eyes are sealed because I just got water on the eyes. Gotta soak up the water. All right. Throwing my left. Always right towards the end. I get close to being done with something and screw something up. Man. So for the lips, I'm going to do a little pinkish brown tone. So there's that. The tube of this looks really bright pink, but it's really not. It's pretty dark. Okay. I'm going to get a small brush. Between all the colors I have here, I can mix up a lip color. So the magenta, this color, and the shadow color from the other day. Okay. Like that, and then I need a small flat brush. I gotta hit where the lips come together, and then I get a flat brush and dab. And what I'm gonna do is gonna bring some of that color out on the lip, create a natural shadow, like that. By dabbing in, what it does is it pushes the oil into the shadow, and as it comes out, it pulls it out and creates a natural shape of a lip, just like that. Lips took me forever to figure out how to do, but there you go. I'll show you again. Just kind of dab this into the crease. And I've already got some shading on there from previous, so we're just kind of tinting everything. And take the flat brush and dab. Want a little darker. Let's do it again. And just like that. A nice natural lip color. Looks pretty good to me. Last one. These oils dry really fast on the cardboard. Got a little bit on the upper lip there, which I don't want. I'm going to wipe it off. Now I got a nice kind of pink lip. Alrighty. So lips are done. Wait for this to dry. I got to make sure I clean these off before I seal them. I got some stuff on them. All right, we'll let all this dry, and then we'll seal this. I'll finish with the eyes off camera. And then, let's see. Hammer is done. I did a little wash on all the details, and it looks pretty good. So I think that's good. I may dry brush this a little bit with some silver. And then let's give this one more layer of silver or sealer. And then that's done. And then really veins, which will take a very long time. So we'll come back when I'm ready to show you veins. Okay, so here are the portraits all done, and they look freaking amazing. I really love these. I really hope my client likes them because I think they look fantastic. So I'm going to send him a couple photos of stuff. I'm going to ask him if he wants me to do the veins. Some guys like the veins. I personally think that people go in and paint the veins really green and blue. It looks really weird to me because if you look at your own arms, even guys that are really jacked, I mean, even you can barely see the vein here on my arm. It's very, very subtle. So I'm going to see if he wants me to do that. So we'll come back and see what he says after I send him some pictures. Okay, so we're in the home stretch. Talk to my client. We are going to do some veining. So I've just got some cheap craft paints here. Got a little blue, little green. And I'm doing this kind of like how I did the cheeks. I just take a little bit and I just kind of put it on real light and then just take a Q-tip and dab it off. Just like that. And that's all you do. It's not hard. It's just there's a lot of them. So this will take a while. So they're there. They're not crazy popping out at you. They're subtle. But they'll just kind of give them a little detail. So I'm going to finish these. We'll seal everything one more time, and then he'll be done. Okay, and with that, Thor is done. So I have a solid week into this guy. Started last weekend with the repair and prep, and 5 days of painting. So yeah, that's kind of what I figured I would get into him. I'd say 45 hours or more painting him. Looking really good. Happy with everything. I love it. I think went for a nice realistic look on him. Just got done doing the veinings very subtly. You probably won't be able to see it in camera, which is kind of, I called my clients like, hey, let's talk about the veins, and both agreed just kind of real subtle. So in person he'll see them, but you probably won't see them in photos or in here. I did that with the watercolor I think I showed. And everything looks really, really nice. The blues turned out great. The yellows, I'm over the top about the portraits. I think they look fantastic. I'm not going to switch out the arms because I'm not a fan of the straight arm. But it's got to switch out straight arm on the right side here. And we got the cape, which turned out very, very nice. I had to repair that and get that working, and several layers of red and shading for that. The yellow took a full day. longer than I anticipated, but that's what it took to get the look I wanted. Yeah, so some days we got a lot done, other days we didn't get a whole lot. Today was a very full day. Got a lot done. Got the hair done, got the portraits done, finished up the veining, the hammer, so a lot of little things. It's a great piece. Let me come and show you the hammer because I didn't do a close-up of that earlier. So there's the hammer. Darken it down to get it more accurate. This always wants to overexpose, but it looks really nice. Nice leather handle, the strap, looking sharp. Yeah, that looks great. And then we'll come in on the portraits. It's kind of hard to show these guys because they're looking up. So if you come down on them. So I'm going to lock that in and bring my exposure down a little bit. But yeah, these look freaking... This is my favorite portrait. I was talking to my clients, like, too bad they... the helmet. I love the helmets, but too bad they're on there because I worked hard on the portraits and they turned out really, really nice. But let's see if we can get a better look on them here. See if my camera wants to focus. Come on, focus. That's about as close as I'll get. I'll bring it down. Right there. Yeah, looking really sharp. That's my favorite one, as I mentioned before. So let's put that back on, then we'll throw the other ones on just to show what that looks like. And I'll take pictures of this tonight, and I'll upload this video after I take pictures so I can throw a slideshow on the end because it will look different in my studio photos. So there's that guy, the bearded with the really cool ornate helmet. Here's the classic helmet. Looking good. Those little washes that I do on the cheeks and the eyes, man, it makes a huge difference. The lips look really, really nice and natural. Really happy with that. And then let's get the other portrait. So we got the no beard portrait with the ornate helmet. I did go in and put a little stubble kind of on just on his chin, and I just did that the same way I did the cheeks and everything. Just took a little black watercolor, dabbed it on, and then Q-tip dabbed it off. Dabbed it on, dabbed it off, dabbed it on, dabbed it off. I got the look I wanted. It's real subtle. But yeah, look really, really nice. So that's it. So everyone who watched these work in progress, thanks for the 3 or 4 guys that watch them. I really do appreciate it. I know they're long-winded and sometimes my head's in the way and stuff like that, but that's just how I do it, you know. But as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned at the end of this. This is for a slideshow, and I'll put the photos that I'm going to take here in a minute at the end. As always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.